There's no doubt that Masterpiece Transformers look amazing. They definitely look the part from the G1 cartoon, the G1 1986 movie, and beyond. But there are actually some positives to having a non-transforming Transformer in the Transformers universe. Today I'm going to kick that debate around. I'm going to debate both sides of if a Transformer does not transform, then it's not really a Transformer. We're going to talk about all this coming up. So a lot of stuff has changed since I last talked about this topic in depth, and today I'm going to give you both sides of the debate, and at the end I'm going to give you my personal opinion. I'm going to save that for the end. So let's get right into this. What made Transformers special and set them apart from many of the other toy lines is that they were different. The fact that they transformed made them different than almost every toy line out there. You could lump GoBots in it and say the same thing. But I think the media behind Transformers was much more interesting to watch. Both the TV show and the comic book that subsequently came out. But talking specifically about Transformers, do they have to transform to be considered a Transformer? Well, from day one, that's what set them aside from other toys. The transformation wasn't just a gimmick. And a lot of people think, well, the transformation is a gimmick. But the transformation itself helped move the story along because they were robots in disguise. Now, I don't think they really took the robots in disguise really that far, but it was a really cool, catchy phrase that they had back then. Transforming also gave them enhanced abilities, and they were truly more than meets the eye. Well, I think a lot of the appeal was that you actually did get two toys in one. That was part of the whole, well, it's not a gimmick, I don't think, but the whole gimmick is that you got two toys in one. And so the fact that it transformed is you could play with it one way or another way or flip it back and forth. And even to this day I watch my kids and they flip Transformers back and forth. They can't just leave them in one form for more than a minute. Now it did always frustrate me that in the show they would transform in seconds. And it would take me minutes and sometimes more minutes than I would like to admit to for a G1 figure. But yeah, back in the day, it took a long time. It was never as easy and fast and simple as the show made it look. But still, that was part of the fun. Getting better with the transformations, doing it faster, and doing it right in the first place. So if Transformers don't transform, they're merely action figures. Now we've seen Walmart put out they're really cheap budget action figure Transformers. And I really don't know what the sales were on those, but for $5 they were pretty cheap. And when I look at a non-transforming Transformer, in my mind I would see something a whole lot better than this. Even if Hasbro were to do a line of them, they would be, in my opinion, more like the Star Wars Black Series or the Marvel Legends when it comes to head sculpts and aesthetic look and posability. But we've seen some amazing looking Transformers coming out that don't transform. But are they truly part of the Transformers universe? Seeing as how Takara has made some figures that really do look like they almost walked off the screen. They look almost perfect in a lot of ways, but they still don't look absolutely perfect. Modern day technology has really brought us a long way. We've achieved things that I never thought that we'd see. And especially when it comes to these toys. Now the price is going up and up and up on these, and it seems like as good as they're getting, as much as they're hitting that aesthetic, we still don't seem to get our money's worth out of every figure that comes out. But you do have to admit that it's impressive what has been done. It's really mind-blowing, and these figures look so close to perfection, which Masterpiece line is supposed to be perfection. It is supposed to be the definitive version of the character in order to be included in a Masterpiece line. Several third-party companies have stepped up and contributed to this Masterpiece line and really enhanced it, taking it to the next level. And like I've said in the past, third party pushes Takara and Takara pushes third party. They each one up each other. They try to one up each other every time. And that has been going on for a while, to where you have great looking figures that still transform. But when it comes to a lot of the fans toys options, it's almost a nightmare flipping them back and forth, and some people are terrified of breaking them. Some people like me. And also, the ability for them to transform provides display options. Many different options. I've actually been displaying a lot more in alt mode these days, and I find it has many benefits for my display. There's something about some of those iconic alt modes and being able to achieve them that is quite impressive. Transformers has changed a lot since its humble beginnings. It's not merely just a line of toys that transform, has a show and a movie to it. There is a lot more to the Transformers franchise. Yes, it is now a full-on franchise. Whether you like it or not, the franchise has gone in many different directions over the past decade. And not just with the different forms of media, but with the figures too. We have seen some very impressive non-transforming Transformers get released over the past couple of years. There are some companies dedicated to making solely non-transforming Transformers, but doing it well, doing it right. There have been non-transforming Transformers that have filled gaps for us for many years, actually. There are even more impressive options coming up, such as this Ultimetal Megatron. One thing you can do if you don't have to worry about a transformation is that you can create absolute perfection. In theory, theoretically an action figure could be perfect in every single way in one mode. So if you're making a robot mode, it could be a perfect robot mode. Now, taking into account this upcoming Yolo Park non-transforming Transformer, he's going to have so much to him, so much detail. It's going to be massive. There's going to be a lot of things that this thing can do that no transforming Transformer can do. The articulation is going to be like none other. All of the little effects that it can do, it's just going to be so different than anything we've ever seen. And I don't know if you could pull all of this off and have it transform. In fact, I don't think it's possible. Well, not with our current technology. But all of these extras from Yolo Park and the size is going to come at a massive price. This is going to be expensive. And so in my mind, one benefit of a non-transforming Transformer is that they should be cheaper than Transformers that transform. But yeah, we haven't seen that yet. It seems like all the companies that make non-transforming Transformers make them way more expensive than their counterparts that do transform. Some of these non-transforming Transformers can run you $400, $500, $1,800. And effectively, they're an action figure and they still don't transform. Now, part of that is the fact that these are all officially licensed, or the vast majority of non-transforming Transformers that have already been made or are upcoming are officially licensed through Hasbro and Takara. And so for that, they have to pay extra money and extra fee. But does it really need to be that expensive? Well, from what I hear, Flames Toys, you definitely get your money's worth. You can feel a high quality product. Same thing with the Ultimetal, and the Ultimetal's going for a very massive scale. And of course the Yolo Park, that's going for a really big scale. In fact, it's probably going to be bigger than most of the combiners that are made. And Citybots, for that matter. But for that price point, what else are you getting? Well, we're getting LED lights, a lot of lighting, and we could see that this is definitely something that's going to be a payoff. Now, maybe you're Super G1, you're not looking at maybe this Megatron or these other different variations, but it still looks awesome, and what they're going to do with it and what they have done with it is great. And I think that once we get our hands on something with all of these extra features that are built into these figures, such as the Yolo Park extra moving gears and pistons and all of that kind of stuff, we're going to want to start to expect to see that from even our transforming ones to a small degree. I think we've seen similar types things, but we haven't seen them on this scale and this many all in one bot. Probably because it can't be done with a transforming transformer to this level. We also expect to have a massive degree of articulation, something that should not be just what the transforming transformers are limited to. Now, a lot of the transforming transformers can use part of the transformation to increase the articulation. But in this case, it should come ready to go with a lot of articulation. Pretty much any pose you can think of, it should be able to pull it off. And when you look at a non-transforming one on the left, which would be Flame Toys, and on the right would be Iron Trans that just got released, you should see a higher level of paint. If you're paying that much more for a non-transforming transformer, you should have a lot more paint. And of course, you should have less to worry about since you don't have to transform it, so the paint chipping shouldn't be as big of an issue, and those kinds of things. On the other hand, you've got to consider if you transform a transformer, there needs to be certain pieces that are not painted at all. And anything that rubs and has paint on it will rub the paint off eventually if you're transforming that thing. So those are some gives and some takes. Also the stylization, it seems like a lot of these non-transformable transformers are stylized. And I have to admit the Iron Trans is a bit stylized for Star Saber, but for this character, I like a stylized look. So now I'm going to share with you my personal feelings about this topic, and I have to admit they've changed a little bit, but not much. First of all, I like knowing that the Masterpiece Transformers that I buy do transform. I don't like to flip them back and forth, and some figures I dread even having to transform for a review. But I will admit that I like knowing that the possibility to transform them is there. If I ever wanted to transform them, if that's something I wanted to do, I could do that. So that's one vote for all Transformers need to transform. But on the other hand, I think there are certain characters out there that I would like to see made as an action figure, such as RC. It seems like no company is going to nail RC 100%. There's not going to be a definitive RC just yet. Now, I do like the promise of Takara's RC. I know a lot of people have negative things to say about it. I am actually looking forward to it. I do think that I will have some sort of transforming magic, but maybe I won't. But I do admit that overall she looks good aside from the chest. There's a whole lot of good about her, but still not perfect, still not definitive. There's something wrong with every single one of these RCs. But if you made an action figure that looked exactly like the cartoon, then that would be something I could put right next to all of my Hot Rod and my Cup and all of that stuff, and I'd be okay with that. The only problem with non-transforming Transformers, in my mind, aside from the fact they don't transform, is how are you going to get the second mode? Because there's supposed to be two figures in one. So if you make a non-transforming action figure for, say, a Masterpiece line, or they come out with a certain scale of them, they need to include an alt mode, a separate alt mode. You need two items packed in that package. That would be my belief on this. If it's going to be a non-transforming Transformer, it still needs to be the whole bit. Because if you're part of this franchise, you should be a whole part of this franchise, not half of the franchise. But I'm okay if you're going to make something like a non-transforming RC and include a really awesome alt mode along with it. Let me know what you guys have to say. Where do you stand on this? Has anything changed for you in regards to non-transforming Transformers over the past year or two? Because I know it seems like the whole fandom is shifting to accepting non-transforming Transformers at least a little bit. Like, subscribe to Darren Hanger out.